In our world today, we're more connected than ever, but somehow we can also feel more disconnected. And with that comes this constant hum of anxiety in the background. It's just there. But what if the key to dealing with it wasn't some new app or a trendy wellness philosophy, but something ancient? Well, today we're going to look at exactly that. We're going to dive into what you might call an ancient prescription for modern anxiety by deconstructing a really powerful chapter from the Qur'an, known as the chapter of thunder. So this verse right here is where the chapter gets its name. And what's so powerful, what's so fascinating, is how it talks about thunder. I mean, think about it. The Quran isn't just saying, hey, thunder's a weather thing. No, it's framing it as a living, conscious force that's actively praising its creator. Right off the bat, that sets this incredible tone of awe, you know? A sense that there's a profound order to the universe. All right, so to put a name on it, we're talking about Surah Ar-Ra'd. That's the 13th chapter of the Quran. And its central idea, its main focus, is this constant battle between what is real and true, which it says is unchanging and solid, and what is false, which is fleeting and just disappears. Honestly, you think about that theme, truth versus falsehood, it feels like it could have been written for our world today, not just the 7th century. So how does the chapter actually make its case for this? Well, it starts by asking us to just look around, to use the natural world as the first piece of evidence. It's really an invitation to just observe. Think about it. The heavens above us, held up without any pillars we can see. The sun and the moon, they're not just floating randomly. They're locked into these perfect, precise orbits. And the earth under our feet, it's spread out, anchored by massive mountains, with rivers flowing through it all. When you put it all together, the imagery is just brilliant. It's painting a picture of these huge, interconnected systems that all seem to point to one single intelligent source. And then, to really drive the point home about truth versus falsehood, the chapter gives us this incredible parable. It's actually a two-parter. First, it says truth is like life-giving water, the stuff that actually helps things grow. Falsehood, that's just the useless foam that sits on top of a flood. It looks like a big deal for a second, but then, poof, it's gone. Then it gives us another one. Truth is like pure metal, the valuable stuff that's left after you melt it down. Falsehood is the junk, the debris that just gets burned away. See the pattern here? One has real, lasting substance and value. The other is just all show, with nothing underneath. Okay, so we've been talking on this grand cosmic scale, right? And we've looked at these really clear parables. But now the chapter does something really interesting. It pivots. It takes this whole massive discussion about the outside world and brings it right inside to our inner world. It's leading us to what you could call the verse of the heart. And this brings us to a question that, let's be honest, feels like it was written for this exact moment. With all the notifications, the deadlines, the constant pressure, in a world that just buzzes with anxiety, what is the actual key? How do you find real, genuine inner peace? Well, the chapter offers an answer that is so direct, so powerful, and almost surprisingly simple. It's right there in verse 28. Remember that only by remembering Allah will the heart always be at peace. And this isn't presented as just, a nice suggestion. It's framed as a spiritual law, as fundamental as gravity or the orbit of the moon that we were just talking about. This verse, this is the bridge that connects all those external signs in the universe to what's going on inside of us. Okay, that's a really beautiful spiritual concept, right? But does it actually hold up? I mean, does this ancient idea have any place in our modern world? Well, let's take a look at how spirituality is now being looked at as a real form of modern therapy. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical problem we're trying to solve. These are real-world issues. Just to put it in perspective, a 2023 health survey in Indonesia found that a staggering 1 out of every 100 people over the age of 15 is suffering from depression. That is a huge number. And it really just shows why we need every single effective tool we can find to help. So this is where things get really interesting. This is a clinical study that tried to measure the effect of remembrance, what's known as Dhikr, as a kind of therapy. So what they did in this 2021 study is they had patients practice this spiritual exercise, which is all about the focused, repeated remembrance of God. And they tracked their anxiety and depression levels before and after. And the results? They're pretty incredible. Just look at the numbers. The average anxiety score dropped from over 5.8 all the way down to 1.67. And the depression score? It was literally cut by more than half, dropping from 9.67 to 4.67. I mean, that's not just a small change. That's a measurable, really significant impact on people's mental health. So this link between a spiritual practice and actual mental health points us to one last, really crucial theme in the chapter of Thunder. And it's this. It's not just about some outside force acting on us. It's about our own power, our own ability to change. And that brings us to this verse. It's maybe one of the most quoted verses in the entire chapter, and you'll see why. Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's a huge statement about human agency, about taking personal responsibility. It's basically arguing that if you want to change your situation on the outside, the work has to start on the inside. Okay, so what does that even look like? What does changing what is in ourselves mean in practice from this spiritual point of view? Well, modern research into this area points to a really powerful three-part framework. First up is something called tawakkul, or trust. And this is key. It's not about just sitting back and doing nothing. It's about doing everything you possibly can, giving your maximum effort, and then letting go of the outcome, trusting it to a higher power. It's a way to free yourself from the anxiety of things you can't control. Next, there's patience. And again, this isn't just passively waiting around. It's an active, determined acceptance of your situation. And finally, there's riva, which is this idea of contentment, of finding real peace with your past and your future by accepting that there's a bigger plan. When you put them all together, they become this incredible toolkit for making that inner change. And that really brings us to our final thought for today. We've gone on this whole journey, right? From the literal thunder in the sky all the way down to the peace and quiet in our own hearts. And what it all seems to suggest is that maybe, just maybe, the tools we need for inner peace aren't some new age invention. Maybe they've been here the whole time, just embedded in this ancient wisdom. So the question I want to leave you with is this. If these powerful tools have always been available to us, how can we start using them right now to build a stronger, more resilient future for ourselves?